Hey everybody, it's Kevin from Twin Talk, and today we're going to be talking all about Godzilla Minus One. Stick around to the end of the episode to see how our drawing of Godzilla came out. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel for more content. Godzilla Minus One is a 2023 film produced by Toho Studios, a Japanese film written and directed by Takashi Yamazaki, who did an incredible job here. What a great time it is to be a big G fan, right? We got Godzilla Minus One, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV streaming. We have this new trailer for this Godzilla X Kong New Empire. So there's a lot happening with Godzilla. I believe that it was said that he's the longest running character ever theatrically, so that's really cool. And I'm kind of glad to see Warner Brothers have this legendary Monsterverse versus like the original creators, Japanese, which I thought would be a little bit distracting going into it, but it didn't really deter the film for me at all. There was a lot of high praise going into this, so I went in with pretty high expectations, and yeah, this movie delivered for sure. One of the very few installments of the Godzilla franchise where I'm actively rooting against the kaiju, because the humans here are really the heart of the story, which is how it should be, but is oftentimes kind of missed. But everything is really entertaining here. The kaiju stuff, the human emotional stuff, and the story is really, really captivating. I have to say it resonated with me for days after seeing this movie. The lead character, Shikishima, is kind of this like cowardly, selfish kamikaze pilot that was supposed to die in war with honor, right? That was the thing back in World War II, which is the setting. And so he's kind of running away from his duty and from his problems with this whole fear issue, and it plays such a heavy role in the theme and character arc of this guy, and it's so impactful by the end of this movie because he truly changes at the climax fight. And throughout this whole movie, you could just see how haunted this guy is with like survivor's guilt that he should have been dead. Everyone's kind of hating on him for not fulfilling his rules of being a kamikaze pilot and letting other people die. And this is really weighing in on him, especially with this like newfound family he has between Akiko and Noriko, I believe their names were. How he almost feels like they're like a fever dream almost, where he's not deserving of love and support. And he's just kind of reflecting his own guilt and anger towards others that he's really feeling towards himself. Even the supporting cast, I forget a lot of their names, but it reminded me so much of the flavor of Jaws, where you got this crew that's chasing this monster. The creature is not the focus of the film, but it's these complex human emotions, stories, character arcs that really make a film stay with you for a while, which makes it a classic, which is why Jaws is a classic, because the humans are doing such a good job on their end with glimpses of horror and action with the creature. And it's kind of how this movie works. When there's Godzilla, though, there is plenty of great things to love about Godzilla. I was thoroughly impressed with the visuals in this movie. I believe the writer-director even had a hand in the VFX too, and the production value is definitely impressive for a Godzilla movie. We're kind of used to the guy in the suit stomping on the toy cars, either overly CGI'd Warner Brothers movies, which is fine and understandable, but this one feels very practical and believable when you see this monster, because Godzilla is an absolute presence, an absolute tank every time he shows up. The beginning scene, I believe he was a little bit smaller, almost like a T-Rex in Jurassic Park, but when you see him coming in, destroying Tokyo in the water, my God, this thing is terrifying, especially when they're in this limited technological era of the 40s with just wooden boats. They can't even use like the warships because Godzilla, there's like mines or something, and Godzilla will just take them out, obviously effortlessly. So what chance do they have? So they have to kind of use their wits to kind of escape this monster. And that scene where Godzilla is in the sea chasing them on this wooden boat, I was on the edge of my seat. My spine was tingling. I was like genuinely terrified because I was in the place of the characters in that moment, and I was like, how the hell are they getting out of this? How they have no chance against this kaiju. This is insane. And seeing Godzilla wreak such havoc and destruction upon these cities, it carried a lot of weight. I was like, yeah, this thing's gotta be stopped at all costs. Where you have men on the line that were actually just civilians that were formerly in the Navy that were trooping together, almost like an Independence Day type speech, motivational speech at the end of the movie, which rallied me for sure. I was like, yeah, we have to come together as a people. The government has failed us. It's time for us to stand on our own, which is another thematic thing that I thought was very intelligently weaved in this story here. That by the final battle, I was rooting completely for the humans, which again is something that I'm not used to doing in a Godzilla movie. I just want to see this guy usually just take care of these expendable human beings, but I genuinely cared about these people. And I'm torn between what my favorite scene is, because when he's destroying the city, it's so classic Godzilla. Even to the point where he's got the train in his mouth and she's hanging on for dear life. It just felt like what Godzilla is supposed to be. And then when he releases that heat ray, oh my God, the atomic breath has never been more disgustingly violent than ever before in this movie. This is the most destruction I've ever seen with this atomic breath. It's like 10,000 atomic bombs coming at you. It's insane, where it produces acid rain and everything. It was really, really heavy duty. And I love the way that they showcased how his breath would come through when he's like kind of charging up at the tail, like the spikes are kind of coming out. And Godzilla's look here was definitely just very visceral, very intimidating, very animalistic, and definitely evil looking. That shot of Godzilla roaring up at the sky with the mushroom cloud from the destruction he just did against humans that keep coming after him, I felt that moment for sure. And in that moment, we're supposed to believe that Shikishima's partner is wiped away in the devastation and dies. So that was a turning point in the movie also, that by the end of the movie, he's almost got like nothing left to live for. And he's going to fulfill his duty as a kamikaze pilot, which was such a great climax. It really felt like I was like in the bathtub playing with toys of a Godzilla toy and a freaking warplane, and the design of that plane was also impeccable. I really, really liked that. That whole flavor of them in the ocean with the two warships, which the humans' plan was absurd. They were gonna like launch Godzilla to the bottom of the ocean, which is where he comes from. I'm glad they made fun of that in the movie. And they had some like Toys R Us toy balloon company that wanted in on saving the world from this kaiju, and it was just such a ridiculous plot that I was like, yeah, nothing. If the warship couldn't take care of this thing, this balloon ain't doing nothing. So I felt like, yeah, Shikishima has to go out and do the right thing here and sacrifice himself for others to live at this point, which was such a nice dichotomy to see, that by the end of the movie, yeah, he was hated for a majority of the movie for not dying as a kamikaze pilot, and then all of a sudden he saves people, quote unquote, against Godzilla, and now we're cheering him for living. That was so like poetic and so bookended so well from a story element that I really enjoyed that moment. When Shikishima's coming down in the parachute over the ocean and sees the destruction he just caused with the plane against Godzilla, and he's the hero and people are cheering him on, that felt so earned. I was actually a little relieved that he did survive, because the whole third act, you're really thinking that, yeah, he's gonna go out as a hero, but he still is a hero and gets to live and gets to have his happy ending, or so we think, because there's this kind of like end credit cliffhanger type ending where he finds and reunites with his partner Noriko in the hospital. She's all bandaged up, and we think that it's a happy ending for him, but then she's like dying of this, I guess, radiation poisoning. Something was like crawling up her neck that was like black veins, so I'm gonna assume that she's a goner either way. And then we see, I forgot to even mention this, that Godzilla has a healing factor. Not only is he able to wipe you out 4 times over with his atomic breath, but he's unkillable. Even if you blow his head off, apparently he's coming back. That was like a really gloomy, bone-chilling ending for me. That when I left, I was like, did we really win? Is there a sequel? I would love that, but I kind of hope not, because this was such a well-rounded story that I want this to just be in the pantheon of Godzilla franchise movies where it sits on its own and is praised on its own. It doesn't need to be a trilogy or anything like that. It's just such a well-made film on its own. I also love that we get the original iconic Godzilla theme song. I was humming it for days afterwards. I got hyped as hell in the movie theater when I saw this, and that music came on. And you kind of get a treat, any true Godzilla fan that would stay for the end credits just to see if anything happened. You get these like impact tremor footsteps of Godzilla, leading up to a gigantic roar at the end when the film ends. So that was a nice treat. Overall, there's very little that I don't like about this movie. Even with the cultural difference between being in a different language and a certain stylistic choices here and there that were a little bit different than what I'm used to, but worked because it was such a nice breath of fresh air as a moviegoer, because this movie resonated for days. I really, really like this movie. That's why I'm going to give it a very high grade of 9 out of 10. What did you guys think about Godzilla -1? Let us know in the comments below. Anyways, that about wraps up today's episode of Twin Talk. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment below to join the discussion, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you next time. Peace!